It runs in your genes. Oh, I'm sorry. I messed up the joke. Welcome back, everyone.
Yo. Holy crap. What a series. I'm glad to see more and more, video games become actual media that is like made for everybody to take in than just the video game community.
Yeah, I'm glad too. Actually, they're saying they broke the curse, but to be honest, video game adaptations have never been good. It's just like people don't know how to handle it.
Well, I mean, ever since Doom, it was kind of just like downhill
Ever since
from there.
Doom, ever since like Super Mario
Brothers. Yeah. I mean, I don't even consider that one. I don't know. I like that one. I don't care what people say, but that's just me.
It's everyone's opinions to that shit. So,
as John Leguizamo, you guessed it. Today's episode is about The Last of Us. Finally just finished, so we're now kind of talk about our moments, our favorite things we disliked, liked, and just bullshit on the whole topic.
Yeah, well, and I think we're gonna make points, not just bullshit. I mean, yeah, just that. But yeah, I'm glad to actually talk about this episode. We might be a little late to the game, but at least better late than never. Honestly.
Definitely,
and we definitely want to get down and dirty with this one.
Yeah, this was one of the series that we said even before when it was first announced. We started talking about it on the podcast, and I think some people even found out through us because we were on top of it and let people know. And really, really excited to just like kind of spitball a little bit about some of the episodes. And because Serge and I we both did play through The Last of Us and also the expansion, which was also part of the series.
Yeah, they included the DLC into that. So, and it was in the way that a lot of people play, where they stop at that certain chapter and they play the DLC and then go back to the regular game.
Yeah,
so that's basically how the season went. How most people play it that way.
But before we do anything, we get down and dirty with this. We gotta get on the tip. The beer tip. What do you got today, Serge?
Today, we've got Golden Road Rhine-On Tropical IPA. There's actually a series of the Rhine-Ons. We got the tropical version. There is one called like Rhine-On 10, and I keep forgetting what the other one's called, but I saw 3 on Total Wine. I heard of the Rhine-On 10, and I actually been selling that as a bartender to people, and I actually recommend that one. Even though I never drank it, I'm just saying like IPA is the way to go.
Yeah, I mean,
but this was the tropical one, so I'm guessing like this is more of the citrus version of it, and
I think there might have been like a double.
I think
like a double,
maybe we have
like
a dip. I think they might be a dipper version of it.
But I definitely haven't seen this can. It's got a dog wearing a freaking tropical shirt, which is awesome. They're all outside like a pool and like looks like San Diego or some shit, and I don't know, just looks super.
It does look like San Diego.
It's like a sunny day kind of vibes. Golden Road Brewing.
This is a summer beer.
Yeah, this is definitely a summer beer. It just shows you right on the front. Let's give this one a crack.
Cool.
Oh. Glad this one didn't explode.
Cheers.
Cheers. Wow. Ooh, fruity.
Yeah, really fruity, really fresh. It's
dude.
Like,
I'm getting
right off the nose. It's just
a lot of guava. It's reminding me of the guava midnight that they made.
Yeah.
Kinda, right?
It's kind of like the guava. Wait, from Golden Road?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
The guava, medianoche guava or something like that. Something like that with guava.
Yeah, wasn't that like a variation of the mango cart, but they put the guava?
I think so. Yeah.
Was it called guava? I mean, I know it's guava, but was it guava midnight?
I think it was.
Medias noches. I thought it was called guava cart or some shit.
No, there's, cause they have, it's not part of the mango cart series. I know that much. Okay. It's its own thing, but it is fruity or like one of those. So I see how you could get it like confused with the whole series, cause that whole series was just like fruits and stuff.
Yeah.
Fruit cart stuff. But this one,
yeah, it does really taste like
it's giving me those vibes. I can't even really tell it's an IPA.
Yeah. It's a little tarty.
It's more tart than it is like, I want to say hoppy.
Yeah, exactly. Huh. This is interesting. Interesting.
Yeah, for a 7.2, I didn't think this would be as light almost.
Yeah. This feels like a 6.
Feels like a 5, like a 5.2
I don't know. I could still get some of the alcohol
on the
here.
very back end. Like you feel it at the pit of your stomach kind of deal, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. I got it on top of my nose.
For sure.
Some of the alcohol.
So, let's move forward, man. What you got? You want to talk about the
You got a lot of dead space. I just noticed that.
That's fine.
Get it?
Yes, Dead Space. Didn't.
So, I mean, we could say a lot of things between the game and then this one, and there's some things that they took straight from the game, and they taken things like, in a different approach. But what I would say, this has been a show that's been developed since like 2020, but I think the pandemic kind of like halted that. But I did hear from Craig Mazin, who's like the developer and the writer for this, who is also the writer for Chernobyl, that in his podcast, he said that he was developing it. And that's how I learned that they were making The Last of Us show. So I was like excited. I was like, oh shit, like this guy's going to make it? Like, all right.
Yeah.
And I think his method of going about it, obviously he talked to Neil Druckmann about it and asked him a bunch of questions. And I guessing from those questions, he just wanted to know more about this world. And they wanted to expand it.
Neil was the producer, right?
Yeah, and he was also, both of them are the developers and also the producers of this show. So it was like a collaboration between the two and stuff. So, yeah, I'm guessing like there was just a lot of back and forth between having to do this and to like a lot of people's surprises, especially like the main cast. They were like, the story's fine as it is, like, what do we need to make it into a TV show? But they just signed on to it and said like, okay. And some of the cast members are also involved in here, so we'll talk about that. And honestly, this show already had like a good story going for it, and then just the expanding of it just enhances it like even more. Even if you haven't played the games, you'll still enjoy it. And if you're hearing us talk about it, we will spoil the game for you. And it's pretty similar to like what you saw on the TV show.
Yeah, I mean, there was even a competition where people, I think it was the company itself was promoting this thing where like you could do a screenshot of the game and a screenshot of the show and compare the two.
Yeah.
And like the best ones would win or whatever.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, there was like a whole
crazy.
competition going on, but like that's how similar it is to the game. And I feel like for gamers, that's really important to get, a lot of the definitive moments and the moments that really make the game clearly portrayed and kind of translated exactly from what you saw to what you see on screen in the show. For example, like the giraffe scene. Like that whole scene was really epic. But I mean, like, well, I mean, it was technically fake, but we'll get into that. All right.
You thought the giraffe was fake.
Okay, so, but look, the like scenes like that, it was just, it was like you remember that from the game, and it just sparks that moment when you first saw it. You know. So I thought that was really cool. And then for people watching it for the first time, it's like, oh shit, exactly what they felt like.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's definitely like a lot of people that felt after watching the show, they felt exactly the same way like gamers felt after playing the game, like that. Wait, that's it? And it's just like, oh, and they just want more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I feel like, I don't want to say they rushed some portions, but there was some things that I wish they would have shown Ellie do when you were playing as her in the story of the game. And I remember watching like towards the end of it, I think one of the producers from the game was saying that when he was reading the script of it, of the storyline of the game, like you actually start playing as Ellie, and I think that's one of the reasons that he wanted to make the game, was because you're not in the typical role that you usually would be. Like now you're in a role where it's like you're more vulnerable in a way, and that makes it more difficult for the player, you know. Talking in a video game context, in this it's more of like the drama of it all, like the drama that she's on her own and she has to survive on her own and make the choices that are going to keep her friend alive, you know. So
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, but
yeah, this is basically just all drama. Like, you can't really like shoot everything as a video game. Like, that would be kind of weird, you know.
Yeah.
And I think some of those changes really just make the show as a TV show format and stuff. But yeah.
I mean, do you have any scenes in mind from the video game that you wish were in the show?
I can't think of it right now, but you know, we'll get to that. What I wanted to talk about is like, how do you feel like about the characters? Do you think they justify like every respective role that we're supposed to play?
Honestly, like they did a really good job of casting everybody. There's a few people that was just like, I don't know if I believed the whole performance, but towards the end of it, it's like he does sell it, and the person I'm talking about is the one that was in charge of the other camp that ends up trapping Ellie.
The leader or one of
one of the leaders. I think his name was John, or I don't know, something like that.
David?
The one that like basically imprisons Ellie.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking about David. Is that the guy?
He's
the cannibal guy.
Yeah, the cannibal guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
That dude, the way like that whole situation turned out, it was like I felt like it could have been a little more intense, you know, because in the game it felt really intense, yeah. You know, and it felt more intense than the show, you know.
Yeah.
Like the show still captures a lot of the actual things that you see in the game, but I feel like I don't know, man. Just the fact that like that part of the game was fucking hard, you know?
Yeah, it was. That's what I was telling. Because my sister was watching the last 2 episodes.
Yeah.
And then, you know, they never played the game, and then they were at that part where they were at the diner or that steakhouse or whatever. And I was like, I hate this part of the game. It's like, why? Because like you literally have to like
crawl
up on
all
them.
Fours.
And wait, what?
Yeah, you like have to crawl. You have to crawl around behind the counters and like. Stay
yeah,
really
you have
low.
to like avoid the freaking the broken dishes on like on the floor, and if you step on it, like he knows where you're at.
And then not only that, pieces of the roof started falling down. Right.
Yeah, but like that doesn't like really interact with like the whole gameplay.
Yeah.
It was just like the background. That's it. Like you could have stayed there as long as you could have stayed there for 10 hours, and it would still be burning at the same rate.
But that character, like, in the game was a lot, I feel, creepier.
Yeah, I think his look is creepier, but I'm saying the guy who portrayed it was just as creepy, but it was just more... There was just something about him that was just, like, slimy. Like, he was much more slimier than
you could tell he was keeping secrets.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that's what I'm saying. Like, at the beginning, when you first meet him, you're like, I don't believe this guy would be, you know, at the end when you see the result.
Yeah.
But then once that finale scene happened, it's like, okay, yeah, like he's definitely selling that character, you know?
Yeah, definitely. It's I would say, like, there were some things that I didn't believe about him. Not like his performance. It's just, like, as a character, because he said he was, like, a teacher or whatever.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't think he was a teacher. I think he's just saying he's a teacher just to like
teacher preacher.
Just to like
so it fucking rhymes.
Exactly. So I think he just wanted that trust, you know, because teachers are like very loyal. No, not loyal.
Well, it's like then he went from one position of power to another.
Yeah, it's a position of power and also a very trustworthy role. Yeah, in that sense, because you're trusting someone.
Yeah.
You're trusting someone to, like, you know, teach your children. It's like, oh, he's coming from a good heart or whatever. But, you know, it's He was a slime ball. He was a
Yeah,
creep and stuff.
yeah.
So, yeah,
I mean, there's slime
definitely.
balls everywhere, but definitely when you're in a position of power and you're using your slime ballness to just do weird shit and eat people and stuff like that.
Yeah,
That's a different
that's it.
level. You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying, of being a
yeah.
slime
This is
ball,
actually a
like.
good one for the
But I
portrayals.
mean, in that world that they're in, it's like it's already filled with a bunch of scumbags and slime balls. Like that's how all those people survive.
Yeah,
But
definitely. I
I
mean,
just
did you? What's your thoughts on just Pedro portraying as Joel?
so this is what I want to get into is like,
Go
yes,
ahead.
like we kind of agree that everybody did a pretty good job portraying the characters, but who portrayed their characters the best? I think, and I feel like when it comes to Pedro, like
There were some parts with Pedro where I didn't believe. I could have sworn like towards the end, he kind of lost like the accent.
yes.
You know what I
That is one
mean?
thing, and this is the whole thing, is a lot of people are just hypnotized, like, a lot of people on TikTok are just hypnotized by the fact of, like, all the reels and stuff that people be
Yeah,
making about him, and, like,
he's the internet's daddy.
as Mando, but, like, the thing is, they hired him for the reason of he knows how to do action shots, he knows how to shoot guns, he knows how to do rolls, do dives.
Yeah, he knows how to act physically. I think
Yeah.
that's his like best aspect towards his
So
acting.
when he was acting and he was in fights and doing physical things as Joel, that's when I believed he was Joel.
Hmm.
When he was kind of doing his lines and kind of just like I it wasn't 100% there for me, but definitely his physical kind of language of how he cared about Ellie, like what he did when he moved in positions of someone was trying to hurt Ellie and he would stand in front or like be the one, like that's the kind of
Yeah,
that kind of leadership, that confidence, and almost like defensive, physical, fucking,
yeah, he
you
was
know,
riled up.
he
When
would
he
get
gets
riled up. He would like start huffing
Yeah, I
and
think
like
the best
puffing
part
and
is when he gets mad or when
yeah,
that rage comes out because he really does know how to like emote that anger really well. For
exactly.
sure.
And that's what I want to say is like that's the moments where I believe that's Joel. That's his character
Yeah.
right there. Like getting in
When
that
he's
moment
angry.
and killing like getting really like, for example, the scene outside when they're all running and then they end up confronting the officer from earlier that's carrying the M16 or right,
Yeah,
the
the
assault
guy he
rifle,
met, yeah, for the drugs. Yeah.
and then he goes and he aims the gun and then she puts her hands up and then like he just freaking goes out and like turns around and just like starts whacking the shit out of his face.
Yeah, he went beast mode on that and stuff. But I like how like just the little details on it is how in movies like you punch someone obviously it's like oh okay whatever, but in this like it took like a couple episodes to actually get healed for his arm to actually get healed because you could kind of still see or he was like tending to the wounds and it was still red and stuff. So that was like the most realistic part of like
The series
of the series
that
they had that.
their like physical like cuts and wounds were
Yeah,
carried
all
over
that.
episodes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and especially like with the wound that he had, and obviously that told history, you know, and that's actually new from the game. That's like that. I don't think that was from the game. Like when he explains to her about the scar,
Mm-hmm.
because he literally just like I think that was just like the last piece of them having to bond and actually get as close as they need
Mm-hmm.
to. When he actually opened up, said like, oh, like right after Sarah died, he wanted to kill himself,
Yeah.
and and in the beginning of this first episode, you just see like, oh, like how'd you get that scar? And it's like, oh, gunfight. It's like, did you miss? It's like, oh, he missed. It's like, yeah. It's like, did you shoot him? It's like, I missed too. And then,
Yeah.
it was misleading, but he literally missed.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was just him having to explain how deep in pain he is.
Did you believe that monologue? Like, did you believe that those lines that he was saying? Like, do you feel
Yeah.
like he sold them?
Yeah, because he felt like he was like deep on it.
Yeah.
This is something new that we didn't see in the game. So this is all Pascal,
Yeah.
doing that scene.
I think in the game he said it was Raiders or something.
No, they never mention
never
it in the
mention
game.
it?
Yeah. It's like I said, they never mention it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just I think he did do a good job of portraying Joel, but like I said, there was some lines that he wasn't 100% with. I feel like
Yeah.
doing the Texas accent and just the way that
The
like
Texas accent was good, like in the first couple episodes, but then I feel like he kind of like it sounded more like Pascal just doing Pascal.
well, I think of the bar scene, when he meets his brother.
Yeah.
I actually feel like his brother did a lot better job of doing a Texas accent,
Yeah,
right?
kept up.
He kind of did do a better accent than him. I felt like when they were in the bar and they were
Yeah.
like pouring whiskey with each other, right?
Yeah. He
Like
did.
I kind of believed.
I
I was like, yeah, he's from Texas. But when you hear it's just because he has a deeper tone, and I feel like he doesn't say much. So he kind of just tried to put the twang in where he could fit it in. But his brother did have some longer lines, some longer dialogue. So
yeah, and he kept it consistent with
yeah,
that. Yeah. Yeah. That was played by Gabriel Luna. Also, I really appreciate that they
made him Mexican
made
brothers.
him. Yeah, I mean, Hispanic would be much more safer to say, but yeah, I'm guessing maybe they're from Mexico.
Latinos.
Latinos from Texas.
Yeah.
I would like to know their little history there.
Well, I
But
mean, this
they
is the
changed,
thing: is
yeah,
originally in the game it was
they're
two
white.
white dudes.
Yeah,
So
and they also changed Sarah's ethnicity too. She's like half black.
yeah, yeah.
I like that.
I thought that was cool. I thought that was a cool twist. And I mean, obviously that's for the whole movement right now of like getting everybody involved, and I'm all for it. That's fucking dope.
Yes,
And
diversity is cool.
it's not like it changed the whole
It really
spectrum
didn't.
of everything. I think
What
what it
really
did.
matters is just like the performance, and they could like pull that shit through.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean, one thing I would say though is in the very first episode, like in the pilot of this,
Mm.
there is a lot of, I feel like, chaos that and suspenseful parts that they kind of could have done more, and they kind of could have shown, I feel, a lot more infected, like people that have already kind of been infected and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah. There's no, that complaint is totally valid because a lot of people have been saying like we wish it could have seen it a little bit more infected, but I'm guessing it must have been for like budget reasons and stuff. But I think the point of the story was like it's not really about the infected. It's literally about like the humanity, and
Of the
and of those
characters.
characters and the very few people that are there on Earth.
Yeah. What
Yeah,
other characters, I mean, there would you say that did a good job? I mean,
Ellie, Bella, who played Ellie,
I think she did the best.
she did the best. Cause a lot of people have been shitting like in the beginning, like, oh, she doesn't even look like her. It's like, bro, just give her a fucking chance.
Attitude was there.
Some of
100%.
her voice was there, and some in certain lines, I kind of heard like Ashley Johnson's voice, like
Yeah.
like that same pitch, and I'm just like, oh shit, like it's
Yeah.
kind of just sounded like her, really.
Yeah, it did kind of sound like her, and I mean, just like she nailed the attitude. And by the time it was her episode when she was saving Joel, that one episode,
Hmm.
you could tell she was fully like comfortable with all the guns and stuff like that. When she was hunting, so you kind of
Yeah.
just can see that whole thing. Like that whole episode was very interesting, and I think that really showed. I mean, that's back to the episode with the cannibals and stuff like that, but that episode really showed her acting ability,
Yeah,
Um,
he really
and
did.
man, just the fact like that whole part where she's stabbing him.
Yeah, that was extended. Like I felt like that was such a good moment for her because nobody really like saved her. She saved herself
Yeah,
in that situation, and it's like almost empowering to see that and just kind of see that rage flowing through because you know um in that episode David and her do have a talk, and then he's literally saying like, you're just like me, like you have a violent heart, you know
yeah,
and it's not just like she's with Joel, and she's only seeing him through his actions and stuff. I think she kind of had like that rage or that tendency even before she even met him, you know, because she's an orphan. She has nowhere to go. People constantly leave her, and then she has like all this rage and all this anger, and she doesn't know where to like project that shit, you know. And at any given moment, she could just lose Joel, and you know, like she'll be alone, and you know, those you can't really output those emotions anywhere, you know. And she doesn't even know that Joel is like nowhere to be, nowhere near her. So you know, she's just like a complete. She's completely like vulnerable, but also like vulnerability. When you're at your most vulnerable, you're at your most dangerous.
Yeah, because at that point it's like fight or flight, you know.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
She was fucking fighting the shit out of.
Yeah, the survival of the fittest, indeed.
What did you think about the leader of the Fireflies? Because that was an
Marlene?
actual, yeah, Marlene.
Yeah,
That
you know
was an
what?
actual actor. That
Yeah, like she knows this character the best, so you know I didn't have any problem with her. The one thing I would complain is that in the pilot, in the first episode, I think she gets shot in the gut, but she doesn't even look like she's fucking hurt. Like,
She's
if you wanna
tough.
go back.
She's tough.
I don't believe
man.
it. I
She's
was like,
tough.
dude, you look like you got shot, and you're like standing up straight. You're not like kind of weaving over and being like, oh, what the fuck. But when it came to like the scene at the end, obviously this is spoilers, where Joel shoots her like, and then she's like down like that. I believe, you know, because
Yeah.
she already enacted this in the game. But I'm guessing because like in no wait, she was shot in the game too. She was actually hurt. But honestly, she did everything. She did a good job overall, especially with the scenes we haven't seen before with her meeting Ellie's mom, or you know, you kind of believe that there was history between them, and it kind of hurt her to like, you know, put her out of her misery, and you know, she basically did more than she was asked to do, and you know, this added scenes just felt like, oh, this is you're playing the same character, and you're doing extra scenes with her, basically. Because she's not in the game for that long.
Well, I mean, but she is in the game. She is the moving. She's the motor of the story. She's kind of the one motivating everything.
Yeah, basically.
So I mean, she definitely played that part well. The leadership factor definitely there. The action part, the way she took out Ellie's mom was gangster.
It was sad.
But it was just like she knew what she had to do.
Yeah,
and it was kind of
and it felt like it felt like it wasn't the first time she did it. Like she just like
exactly like
okay, she took a moment and then she just did it real quick.
She's like, this is the attitude that she has is the reason that she's the leader of the Fireflies.
Yeah,
because she's willing to take action and like. But in that moment, you notice she was willing to sacrifice her friend. She was hesitant. She was willing to do it.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, when it comes to sacrificing Ellie, she wants to sacrifice Ellie.
Yeah, that was the bookend of that episode. I could totally get that because you do see like, yeah, this is what's necessary. So she has to do like that rash decision right there.
Yeah. And then also with Ellie, it's like, this is what's necessary. Like, we have to do this.
The only thing is just like was what I hate. Is it all comes to Ellie, but they never give her much to like make that decision to actually like pull through, because you don't really get to.
Oh no, they didn't tell her because she's a kid. So like that was.
I don't think that's an excuse.
I don't think so either. Yeah. But I feel like because the benefit outweighed the means of it in their eyes, and they probably thought to themselves like, if we tell her, she's probably gonna fight us on this. But if we just like say this has to be done, she's not gonna question it. Treat her like a kid, then we're gonna be able to do this no problem.
Yeah, I guess you're right, but I mean, it would suck that if they went with it and not telling her that, and if it doesn't work, that's really on them.
Yeah, and I think that was the whole thing, that Joel didn't want to even risk that part, you know, and he was just even questioning why they would do it if she doesn't want to, like, at the end of the day, Joel didn't want that shit to happen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And that's why
he
he ended
bonded
up
over
going.
her, and then obviously it's reasonable because it's also interesting because when it came to the game, they literally asked like people. There's like a there's like a stats between this like where they ask him like, do you think Joel did the right thing? And people that said that he did the wrong thing are people that don't have kids. And the people who actually like are parents and play the game, they said like they're 100% behind Joel on
Yeah.
his decision and stuff.
I mean,
So it's just pretty interesting.
honestly, I really feel
that
that
aspect.
at the end of it, like, they should have tried to find a different way, you know?
And
Or what they should
I
have
don't think
done.
there was a different. I think that was the only way.
But
that
what
was
I'm
the
saying,
only
but they
alternative.
also were rushing it. But what they could have done is be like, you know what? Then how about if you ever die from natural causes, like we take your body, then we do the thing, you know?
Yeah.
You know? I don't know. You know, like if you know you're about to die from natural causes, like you're 80 years old, and
I don't think they're thinking in that way because
there's
they're
pressure.
because it's a pandemic and
Yeah.
there's all this like pressure. So it's like, oh, we want this shit to be over. So
Yeah.
if we have the solution, might as well get this ball rolling.
That's fucked up, but
Yeah,
that's the way.
I
It
mean,
rolls.
that's how cruel and cold this role is.
What other characters besides Marlene? You think
Tess
did a
was
good job?
okay.
Tess?
Yeah, the lady that played Tess, she was okay. Do you know where she's from?
No, she looked familiar.
Mindhunters. She was the lady.
Shit.
Yeah,
Oh,
she was the
that's
lady
right.
that helped
yeah,
them
that's
out.
right.
Yeah.
Who else? I mean, to me, those were the people that really stood out the most.
Bill?
And who can forget
Bill.
and that whole thing and the liberty that they took with that whole
That was
situation?
amazing.
I mean, in the game, the actual game, Bill, you could tell he was like a survival type, and you actually do spend a lot of time with Bill in the game,
Yeah.
which you don't spend in the series. Like, you never see Joel and him actually like fight people together and shit, which is what you do in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Which I kind of
That's one of my
felt robbed on that.
That's one of the things I will complain, but also not be too mad about it. Because he did ask me like, "Oh, what was the thing in the game that you wanted to see in the show?" I literally wanted to see Bill and Ellie like go back and forth with each other.
Well, remember the introduction to Bill was booby traps.
Yeah.
So you start finding booby traps around, and you start like, oh shit, like I think this is Bill. And he's like, just watch out, because you would have to go as Joel and like undo the booby traps to get past them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the booby traps were meant for the infected.
Yeah. Infected or trespassers.
I don't know how many times they showed the infected actually get blown up by the booby traps. I think once.
I think it's only once, but you have the option to like lure them in and then they could blow up. Yeah.
So that whole thing is like him, and it does kind of go into, and it really did go into detail when it was like the first day, and he like created the fence, and he like made the whole border, and like went around to the hardware store.
Yeah, you really go into his whole perspective and what he was doing at that time, and it was a fucking fantasy. That's
Dude,
what it was.
It was.
It was a post-apocalyptic fantasy. You have no one to worry about. You get to fucking get all this shit from
That
Home
was his
Depot.
Disneyland.
And yeah, basically,
He was ready for it too.
Honestly, like I would want to do that shit too. Get like a fucking haul of using a fucking boat as a fucking trunk to like haul all this shit in, and then use that, and then go back home, and then set your old fucking fortress of solitude there.
I just thought that scene of when they like enacted martial law and they got everyone out of town.
Yeah.
And then you just see him come out of his hole and just kind of look around. He's like,
right.
It's on now, motherfuckers. That shit was tight. And just like that whole thing with the traps that they did, that wasn't in the game. The trap with the saw?
Yeah.
I don't think that was in the game, was it?
In the game.
That was a fucking awesome idea, though. That shit was so cool.
Yeah, I know. They just thought of like different ways of doing booby traps and shit.
But
and then the whole camera system and everything.
Yeah,
cool.
that shit was fucking awesome. But I mean, like, originally in the game, when you read the letter, you find out that his partner left and ended up taking his own life, like, committing suicide.
Yeah, it was like a love and hate relationship.
He died by suicide, and basically, like, it was because he didn't like Bill because Bill was so stuck in his ways, and he wanted to like go and explore. He wanted to make friends.
Yeah.
He wanted to try to like have a life. And Bill wasn't like that. He wasn't open to any of that. So he ended up going off like further away from town and basically like doing his thing. And you end up finding him, hanging inside of a room. And then Bill finds a letter.
Well, you find a letter for him, and basically, yeah. Yeah, I like how he's just like, they just stop arguing, and then he just look, and then there's literally like a body there. And then he just says like, is that a friend of yours? It's like, only that jackass who'll be wearing that stupid Hawaiian shirt.
And there you go.
Yeah.
And that was the kind, but like
this
that.
Is, yeah.
Once you see that thing, and then you like realize, holy shit, like this is a type of character in a video game I've never come across. He's like a crazy, like paranoid. Doomsday paranoid prepper, but he's also gay. And he's also like has a partner, and his partner and them don't have this relationship, and it's just like that. Like video games don't go that deep into human like inner like life and relationships. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. That was like a deep characterization of like any video game character that I've seen. Well, I mean, basically that whole game, but this one was just like, damn, like that's like really deep, But
that's one thing I want to say though, because when I say you pick up a letter and read it, you get so much more of a backstory in The Last of Us if you pick up notes and letters and read them. For example, there's this one when you're in a bank, you end up going through a bank at one point, and
isn't that part 2?
I think so, but
let's not talk about part 2.
Wait, was it part 2?
Yeah, it was part 2.
Oh shit! Okay, I'm getting them confused, but yeah, no, that like you read letters and stuff like that, and it tells you so much more about like the situation, the story, tells you where secret things are. So I mean, to the gamers out there that are going back and playing The Last of Us Part 1 and 2, like definitely read all the notes because there's a lot of shit in there that you can get from.
Even if it's like useless, it still adds to like
the lore of it.
The lore, and also the people that used to live in the house, because you go through houses and you read letters and you're just like, oh damn, that's kind of fucked up,
Well, it's like when Ellie goes and then you see her in that one scene where they're in that one girl's room, and she's like, that's what they worried about, what shoes to wear the next day.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like one of those little things that you see like seeds of like the past, and they're just going through this world that's just been abandoned, and he's just like, oh, that's how she gets to learn about like the world of how it used to be and stuff. So it's like
through writing.
It's like relics, really.
And I mean, now that I think about it, that's why like books and stuff were so important to her character, because that was her only connection to the past.
Yeah, she learned. Yeah, exactly. And she learns about apparently she learns about the infected books. That's how she learns about it. But in the real world application, like you have to. It's a whole different thing that they have to do to survive. This is from the game. When they read notes, that part where you go through with Sam and Henry. There's one part where you're underground, and there was people that were living there, and there was like a series of letters that were like, pretty much describing, like, oh, if it comes down to it, just like lock yourself in the room with all the kids and stuff. And then when I go into the room, you see a bunch of little bodies and a big old body like right there. And I'm just like, oh fuck, that's just fucking dark. And Ellie and the kids, they don't go in that room. You as Joel, you only go into that room, and then you get to witness all that shit, and you're just like, fuck, this is fucking dark. And literally that whole room was like fucking dark and shit. But
that whole shit was fucking...
Yeah, but there's also like a lot of dark implications with this game.
That's the whole thing. The show too. Yeah, well, like that's the whole thing that I feel like really drew them to make a series about it, because there's so many of these moments that dive into the humanity of the apocalypse after the apocalypse. Like there's a lot of movies and stories and like graphic novels probably that talk about, one person's challenges through the apocalypse, but it never kind of tries to portray or show you the many different avenues and things that could possibly potentially happen and did happen in this series, you know, like
Yeah.
and that's the crazy part about The Last of Us, because it's not just about Joel and Ellie. It's like about the whole world that they're living in and the type of cultures that, you know, like these rebel societies, like, you know, the Fireflies and the Fedra, and like that whole battle between them is kind of already talking about like society now in a way, you know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, it's a reflection to what it says about us, really. The human condition and all that.
the human condition, people.
The human condition.
You want to take a short pause?
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's take a pause.
And we're back. Clap, clap, clap. All right.
What do we leave off on?
We just finished characters, and then we would.
No. What did we say last? We said
What?
like human condition.
Human condition.
All right, we'll leave off on human condition. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Human. 3, 2.
I'm not doing this.
Just
bit.
do
Can
it.
we just-
Just do the bit.
Great.
3, 2, 1. Human condition.
condition.
So, moving forward, I think the
That was
human
so dumb.
condition on the characters is majority of them played their roles very well. Ellie, I think, stood above the rest. And now you want to get into the comparisons between the game and the
the new
series?
changes that they did for the TV show, which is a big thing that gamers realize, or I mean, they notice, and yeah, I actually appreciate it.
Well,
That's
let's
some of the
crack it
changes.
open.
Let's crack into it.
Let's crack into it.
So I just want to say this is one of my favorite ones. Should we just like do a top 2, whatever we remember?
I mean, of like the situations from the game, or
Just the new
the series.
changes.
the top 2 changes.
I don't know if could you tell the changes or no? I could because I played it recently, so
I
think
could
would.
tell some of the changes. Like the biggest change to me
Well, besides Bill, but yeah.
was just the neighbor, like them introducing the neighbors in the beginning.
Oh right, yeah.
You know, like that was never in there. And then Bill, the whole change with Bill's relationship, basically.
Yeah. What do you like about the neighbor ones? Because like obviously like you don't get to see them in the game, but they know they're attacking you.
I think that it was. It shows that the connection and the acceptance of the two cultures, because the neighbors were white and they
Right.
were like mixed and Mexican, and to me that was like they get along, like they're cool, like that's awesome, you know. And then just shows like the
yeah.
humanity between, like they did have a connection that was obviously deeper than being neighbors.
Yeah.
Like they were there, friends, and there for each other, and it looked like they looked after Sarah when she would come home from school.
Yeah, it did. It did seem like that. There was like that familiarity and whatnot.
And
but
what I want to say about that is because that shows that in that moment, Joel had to make the decision to take out his neighbor, that person that he had the connection with,
yeah,
and he did it to save his brother and his, and Sarah, his daughter. So it just kind of showed that Joel was ready to do anything at that moment until he obviously came face to face with the Fedra agent.
yeah, exactly. Another change in that same episode, I would say that what's his name? Tommy doesn't get arrested. In fact, like he's coming home from a contracting job, and then Joel goes off and does something. It's not really explained in the game, but in the TV show, his reason to go out is because of Tommy. And shit was going down because Tommy got arrested for hitting a guy because apparently like he assaulted a woman, and that tells you like, oh, like it's already starting. Like the guy that he had assaulted the woman, he was infected.
Yeah.
And he didn't know, so he just like act rationally, act like a hero. And that's another thing, he's also like an ex-veteran. Well, he's a veteran.
Yeah.
So he has like that righteousness of protecting others, just like Joel has, but he goes about it in a different way and stuff. So I think that was actually a really good change. Or No, it was more of an added change, if anything.
I like that change. You know what? You know what's a big added change? It's a small one to me. I mean, I think thinking over the whole series and all the graphics and everything, but it made a fucking huge impact in the beginning was the plane that went down
Yeah.
and crashed. Because I think in the first one it was a train or something like
It
that.
wasn't a train.
It was like a car or something.
It was a
like,
car that hit him, and if you pay attention to the episode, the car almost hit him, but it didn't quite hit him.
Uh-huh.
And then gamers will say like, "Oh, that was the car that was supposed to hit us," but then something else happened, and then that's how they got to it.
Yeah, but when
it was
that
one of the
plane
motors that
crashed-
hit them and then hit the truck. Yeah,
that when the plane
that's the big
crashed,
change.
that was epic, man. And I'm like,
Bro,
they
that's where
made
all the
that
budget went in there.
Yeah, honestly, like that whole scene right there was crazy. But
It just made it seem way more bigger than, in the game.
well,
and
not only
stuff.
that, but I think like they could have probably saved a lot of budget by not using 100% real actors with like suits and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
it probably would have been easier to copy and paste a few of the zombies around,
What do
Like
you
you
mean,
wouldn't
like,
be able
made
to
'em
tell when it's
CGI?
dark, Yeah. Kind of
Maybe.
mix it in.
I don't know, but CGI also does cost money too. But prosthetic is pretty expensive. But I mean,
feel
they
like
wanted
it would
something
be a
real.
lot more expensive.
Yeah, they just wanted something real and something that was like realized, Because if
Well,
it
let me
was just
tell you-
CGI, it's just like, oh, might as well be like computer graphics that they use in video games. So
What was it? The clicker, the big clicker?
the bloater.
Yeah, the bloater.
Yeah.
When he came out of the ground, that whole guy, he was an actual person, and
Yeah.
they had like all kinds of makeup and stuff on him.
Yeah, he was combined of makeup and visual effects on him.
That was
shit actually pretty cool. Yeah.
Dude, that was one of my favorite parts of the series. I think when that fool came out of the ground and like went and ripped some
I started
dude's head
screaming.
open.
I'm like, honestly, I was waiting for that to happen, but I hated that it happened to be that guy because that guy was actually cool. And
Okay,
that's the guy that actually plays Tommy in the real game.
Yeah, that's what I was
in
gonna
the
say.
game,
That
yeah.
plays Tommy in the real game.
see
That's
it.
what Rox was telling me. So I
Yeah.
mean, but that whole part was
Perry.
tight.
Poor Perry. Well, I mean, just other changes that you think you noticed, like
Well, other changes that I noticed was just, you didn't spend as much time in the residential area than I thought you would have. Like in the series, I think it was only one episode they were in the residential area.
yeah,
But like in a lot of parts of the game, you're either in the main city or like in residential areas.
yeah.
So
Well, in this one, I feel like they were more like in the countryside,
yeah.
So I don't think we get too much of that.
There was one change that was actually really big that I noticed, and they even talked about it, was originally in the game there was a way that you come up to the tunnel and then you basically had to go through the tunnel. Remember?
Yeah, the big tone. Yeah,
The big tunnel, but in this one they ended up cutting around. So I think they did that because of the budget. So like if we have to do this whole tunnel scene, like that's gonna take a huge chunk of the budget.
Speaking of that, after they come out of the tunnel, they go into a residential area in daytime. But in this one, like you said, they cut around. It's still a residential area and it's nighttime, but there's like a sniper, and then you learn the sniper worked with Henry and Sam on this one. And he already takes out the sniper, and you have Joel like protecting like all of them using their sniper rifle,
Yeah.
as opposed to like protecting them from infected and hunters. The hunters are actually replaced by like a resistance group that overtook Federa.
Right.
And now they have like this whole group with the guy who
Well, in
gets
that
his head-
area, I think that was part of the game. Yeah, they actually
Yeah, that
did,
wasn't it. Yeah, if we realize that shit.
Yeah.
And they also combined one part of the game with that where they're getting chased and there's a tank going right behind them, as opposed to going like in the highway. They're like in that residential area, so they
Yeah.
kind of combined that part too. So it was like a little small details into that. I mean, speaking on like changes, like on that first episode and like that second half, I really like how they come into agreement with because Joel and Tess are actually trying to like find a car battery or
Yeah,
some
the car
shit.
battery.
And in this one, they go in there, and they walk into like a standoff, and obviously you see Marlene and the other lady there, and then they have this whole tense situation like, oh, if you do this for us, we'll return the favor, and that's
Hmm.
when they exchange Ellie and all this shit. So
Yeah,
like it was right there and then that they just like did the deal, as opposed to like
kind of drags on.
fucking Robert, like that's the guy they were trying to fight. Robert, like, oh, what if we go against like a Firefly? And then Tiz is like, that's a stupid fucking idea, and shoots him. And then like, oh great, we have to find Marlene, and then Marlene's right behind him, coincidentally.
Yeah.
But as opposed to that, you get to see the aftermath, and then Marlene is there, and then the whole exchange is like, it's right there and then, and it's just like, oh shit, that was way more smoother, and I liked it.
I mean, I did like that exchange because it speeds up a big part of it, and
Hmm.
honestly, a lot of that part of the game is you learning to maneuver. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like get
basically
up
that
and
was like the
down, like
training and
around
all that.
stuff, like
Yeah.
training stuff. So it skipped all that. So that's cool. Like I'm cool with that. But I mean, as far as like the biggest one, like I said, like the relationship that they had with Bill, and then like just the intensity of the scene with Ellie when she was by herself was really different from the actual game.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's small, and I feel like they did take their artistic choices to make it, budget friendly. One, especially for the fire scene, and then
Yeah.
two, also be because let me tell you this much: for that whole thing, that's a very risky portrayal for like
Live action.
live like no not live action, but like for national television.
Right.
Do you feel me? Like, yes, it's a video game, and people that play video games know that you could get away with a lot crazier things because it's animated
Mm-hmm.
versus in the movies. But the thing is, like, when they're tackling that situation of Bill and his whole relationship, if they would have shown that on like what actually happened and like dove deep into
Yeah,
that,
you're right. Yeah.
that would have been, it wouldn't have been a sweet episode. Like
Yeah.
them, it wouldn't have been a Romeo and Juliet episode.
Yeah. Exactly.
It would have been like very like intense and dramatic and violent, I feel like, and like just a not a good vibe episode.
Yeah. Yeah, because the rest of the episodes are like really condensed down to violent and dark, I would say. And just having one more is just like, let's just take a breather. And really, this is a show about like, um, both Neil and Craig actually said that, oh, what this show is really about, it's about love,
Yeah.
And the whole in the game, the whole takeaway of that whole section of Bill was that this is a reflection of Joel if he doesn't open up his heart to anything and just keeps himself closed, because Bill was a close person and stuff, you know. And in the show, like obviously they took the opposite approach, and Bill he gets to have like his happy ending, and it's nice because like in this world you don't really get happy endings, but in this one, like the best that they could, they actually got like a really it's something that was very
Well, I
fitting.
feel like it was
They
an
went
honest
out.
portrayal because it was a happy ending that everyone had to equally work towards.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
and then with this one, the takeaway is like protect the one that you love, like no matter what,
yeah,
and he and as opposed to like having to just see like someone like being all like closed off, is in this show it shows them the opposite. Like, oh, this guy's telling you like, you know, you and I, guys like you and I, we got to like buckle up and like take care of the person that we love. And obviously he was referring to Tess.
Yeah.
But now that he doesn't have Tess, it kind of feel like he fell. And then the next closest thing is like Ellie, And I think that's like the big motivation of like what makes him like do that decision of what he did at towards the end of the story of this season and stuff. So like every people that they encounter that they work with, it's like it's a step forward into like what makes Joel do what he does and get closer to Ellie, and just remind himself like what love is, or what it is to like protect the people that you love.
I mean, looking at it from a perspective of story writing, you can see the relationship that Ellie is trying to transput, like the point of Ellie's character and why it's reflecting his daughter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that whole connection and his loss of his daughter, he's obviously trying to fit that piece in. But we've seen movies about this, before. We've seen stuff that has to do with like storylines that kind of have that same meaning, but it's different when it's an apocalyptic situation.
Mm-hmm.
And every situation you come across is life and death. That's the difference between this series and a lot of other movies and books and stuff out there.
Yeah.
Is because it really just puts it on the line. If like this doesn't happen, then one, either like our chance to save humanity is gone. Two, I now lose this friend that I've.
Yeah, it's a very complicated, very delicate, and also very complex decision that he's put himself into. Really, yeah, but it's like, it's crazy. Yeah, one thing that we didn't talk about is Sam and Henry, and then the whole Kansas City and all that.
They actually chose a younger actor for that whole thing, and in the story from the video game, they're like around the same age. Him and Ellie are around the same age, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, in the game they're around the same age. Yeah, it seems like it. And this one he's younger.
Basically, they're your map through the city. You know? So they know how to get around and everything like that. So you kind of follow them. They help you out and get past all the crazy people that are basically have already taken over Fedra. So, I mean, look, that whole episode is dark, and it's really like
I think I like that they did the change with like with Henry, Sam,
and they made him
he made him deaf,
like a
when
deaf
younger.
actor. Yeah,
it's cool, but also it makes it a little bit more sadder.
it does.
You know what I mean? I'm just like,
it does make it a lot sadder.
It's better, but it's worse.
But I mean, it also kind of I feel ties into the story, because when he turns, he doesn't attack Ellie. He's facing the opposite way.
Yeah.
So he can't hear. So like immediately when she moves in front of him, that's when he starts attacking.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Because in the game, he does the exact same thing, but he's like, oh, wouldn't he attack Ellie by now? But now that they made the deaf character, it makes a whole lot more sense.
Yeah, because he turned in the middle of the night. She said she wasn't gonna go to sleep. She ended up going to sleep, and then when she tried to see what was wrong with them, that's when he started attacking her.
Oh shit!
So I mean, that's a whole that was a good twist too.
That was a good twist, yeah.
And it was cool to also be inclusive in that manner and have somebody on board, So they're making it all inclusive as well, like with that episode. And the fact that it was a younger actor is just even more of a challenge for him to kind of step into that, knowing exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, it must have been really much of a challenge for him. But it seemed like he actually enjoyed it. I mean, from what I saw from behind the scenes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, from behind the scenes, it seemed like he was with him and his interpreter, it seemed like he really did had a good time. And then also the girl that plays Ellie, Bella, actually learned how to do ASL as well. So he's just it's a learning experience. But yeah, it seemed really cool. It was better, but also it made it worse.
Yeah, it made it a lot more sad at the end of it. But Oh man, just the fact like when the older brother had to go and
Shoot him.
yeah, it was just like
Bro, I felt like I knew that it was coming, and then
yeah,
when
and
it
it still
came, it's
hit
just like,
the
damn,
same way. It
fucking
opened
dude,
that
like, it's
wound up
still
again
like,
from the
oh
game. Yeah,
god.
it's
It's
sad,
just,
man. But
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, at the end of the day, like that was another situation. That's another situation that they came across that was life or death.
yeah,
In that moment, it was like they had to make rash decisions, and that's the whole thing about this series too. Is in a split second, you have to be able to make those decisions. If you don't make those decisions, you're gonna die.
yeah,
Like that's the whole thing about this world, and in the game too. That's kind of how it is in the game. Like let's say, I mean, one of the things in the game that was really hard was when you were traveling through buildings and you had clickers around you. You had to think, okay, if they stop and do this, okay, I kind of know their pattern, but they could change at any moment.
right,
And that was a different thing, and that's kind of what the series had. That's what they portray in the series as well. You know.
huh? I don't know. Yeah, definitely. That that was actually, yeah, that was actually a really. I guess that would be a good change if anything, because originally it was in Pittsburgh, but this one's like Kansas City. And but I think it was I think it was shot in Canada. Most of this shit was shot in Canada for budget reasons. Again.
Yeah, they had a shot the crew in one of the aerial shots, and
Really.
yeah, it was a blooper that someone noticed in the episode in the snow.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think when they came across that native couple, they
Really.
go, yeah, the Native
Yeah,
American
yeah, I
couple, yeah,
remember that. Yeah.
and then they were just like
None of that had changed.
like a overhead shot with a drone
Yeah.
from a bridge, and then you could see like the set team walking along the road. You know, I was like, oh shit.
It's like, oh fuck.
It was a
like,
great shot though. That's
Yeah.
probably why they kept it, and they were like, that shit's good.
That's just good. Who cares about those other people?
And no one probably noticed it because you can barely notice it, bro.
Honestly, that's one of the things that HBO has. They're known for, is that they add things that aren't supposed to be there, like Starbucks cup in Game of Thrones.
They're like, it belongs. It belongs there.
They digitally removed that shit, and I heard another thing that they had in this show that they digitally. It was there originally, but then they digitally removed it later on. When
Can
they
we
noticed
move
it.
into that kind of stuff? Because that's kind of the stuff that I like to talk about
Yeah.
too.
Wait, just one more thing. What do you think about Kathleen?
Kathleen, who's
Yeah,
that?
the leader of the resistance. Whenever she was part of the Sam and Henry arc.
Oh, okay, the one that was gonna
Yeah.
lock them up and shot the doctor in the head.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that was an actual actor yeah, that played in the game, right?
Wait, the doctor?
I think no, Kathleen.
No, Kathleen's new. She's a new
I
character.
thought she wasn't. No, she was in the.
Okay, this is
game,
what I
wasn't
wanted to
she?
say. She fits in that role so perfectly that you could see her as an actual like Last of Us character.
No, she wasn't she?
No, she wasn't.
Oh my god, dude! Like they sold that so well then because
Yeah, that's what I'm
I could have
saying.
swore I saw pieces of that storyline
no,
in the game.
No, she was not part of the whole game.
What?
Yeah, bro, because that whole bit, they were replaced by hunters, and hunters were like basically like they're standing for that. Because that whole arc where they resisted like Fedra and all that, that's new. That's the new change that they did. But her being the leader of it, like she feels like a Last of Us like character, so well.
Dude, she fits in perfectly, and like the whole brother thing.
Yeah.
I don't know, like they added that, and that was
Played
pretty
by-
well. I mean, it went in pretty well. It was the girl from 2.5 Men.
Two and a
right?
Half Men, Rose.
Yeah.
She's stuck. She super glued my nuts to my legs.
Oh, Rose. There you go.
I love it.
crazy.
She's in like other things. She's in Yellow Jacket and a bunch of shows. I actually watched Perks of Being a Wallflower the other day, and she's the aunt. I won't give away like what she did in that movie, but
Oh God.
yeah. I was like second guessing myself. I was like, oh, okay. I knew it. I fucking knew it. I fucking knew it. And then she played it so well. She's a really great actress.
Yeah.
You know, and she really sold it. But it sucks that like she kind of got criticized for body shaming.
Really?
Yeah.
People were saying that. Oh, she's.
Well,
too
I
big.
think one girl was saying about that. I think she was like some girl from like America's Top Model or some shit. And I'm just like, dude, what the fuck? Really?
Stay in your world, bro.
Yeah.
Stay in your world.
Come on, you were in Tyra Banks' fucking show and you're body shaming? The irony on that.
And it's like, yeah.
Bro. But no, she did a good job. She played a really deceitful, not deceitful, but a character you love to hate type of person.
She was like the anti-David.
She was, actually.
You know?
Yeah.
She was like keeping everybody fed, keeping everybody happy, had shit on lock, like had everybody kind of like a whole military team at her fingertips, like
yeah,
that was pretty badass.
A different type of society, if you will, you know,
Yeah.
like a different aspect and stuff. But she got what she deserved because kids die all the time, and then the literally kills her. I was like,
That was fucking crazy.
Well deserved death. Poor Perry, man.
There he went.
There he went.
Yeah, there he goes.
Don't protect a bitch like
Yeah.
that.
All right, let's talk about the graphics, bro.
The what?
Let's talk about the graphics. The money
Graphics.
shots.
I love the shots of when they were in Boston. Obviously, those shots of Boston, I think they were CGI.
Yeah.
You know? So
Yeah,
you
they
had
were.
like a real set, and then it was CGI.
It was
and
like
then,
the building, and then
Yeah.
behind that, it was just like.
Yeah, and then and it's that part of the game, and also the TV show where he's like, "Oh, is it everything you ever expected?" It was like, forgot
I
the
don't
line.
know. It's like, I guess.
No, she doesn't say that. She's like, "Hey, you can't deny the view," or somewhere between
Yeah,
the lines.
that's what it was. Can't deny that view.
And it was a good view.
Yeah, but that's what I'm
Really
saying. And,
graphically, that shit was
dude,
so
the way
good.
they added all those buildings toppled over and stuff, like you could tell they had planned those shots out perfectly.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's the difference between planning shots like for the storyboard, like exactly how you shot it, doing the angle, getting everything correct, versus okay, we're going to just fix it in post.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, definitely the sets were like straight out of the game. And a lot of people have been saying it's like, oh, of course the world will look like this because you have like grass or you have weeds like overgrowing like, you know, parts of the building or a car. And the car's, you know, being rusted as it is. And it gives it more of a realistic look for it. And something that a lot of people didn't even think about when it comes to like post-apocalyptic like settings and stuff, you know? Because of course nature's gonna overgrow that shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's just.
Well, I mean, when you go into the college and you see like the whole giraffe scene, all right?
That wasn't the college.
Yeah, it was.
What are you talking about, fool?
Weren't they going to like the
No. The college is a different scene. But when they were going through Salt Lake City,
that was near the zoo.
it was
Something
near
like
the
that.
zoo. That's
I'm confusing it, but
you're confusing it
it's
because
all
there
the
was
buildings
monkeys.
look the same.
No, because there was monkeys running around in the
Yeah,
that's why you're getting confused.
yeah.
There
So
was two animals.
okay,
on that
yeah,
side of
that's
that.
true. Okay,
Yeah.
there were two different scenes with
Yeah, there's two different
a
scenes with
chimpanzee.
animals. Yeah,
But the giraffe scene, Rox is like, no, that's a real giraffe, and
It's
I was
a real
like,
giraffe.
nah, no, it's not.
bro. You know how I know it was a real giraffe? There's no way you can make the tongue look that good. And I was like, because when it comes to like something animated and when they put out like tongues or anything like it's like gross
Yeah.
and whatever, they never do it right, and it
Right.
seems like obvious.
hmm
And I was just like, I think that's a real giraffe.
Yeah. I mean, I saw that and I was like, okay, that looks real, but it also looks like digital. And when I looked back into it,
I know the background was
they
digital.
did. No, they actually did touch up the giraffe.
It looked a little too clean.
What they did was they put shaders on it, so they basically, the direction where the sun was hitting them,
Right.
they matched that. So they're like,
Right. Because it was like the giraffe was enclosed in like a, I think it was a, what is
dude, it
the
was a studio.
behind the scenes. Yeah, it was like a blue screen.
Yeah.
Everything was blue screen. So there was a whole part where like the giraffe will pop up, and then the other side, that's where like, the keepers will be at to like, guide the giraffe into the set and stuff. But yeah, that's what I read up, and I was like, yeah, like it looks. I know some things are like not real, but I know like that giraffe was kind of like,
it would no okay.
It looked a little weird, but it was just like I know
it was a real giraffe.
Yeah, like I know it was real.
But when they cut, basically what they do is they create a filter around everything else but the giraffe and its neck and its head and every single one of its hairs.
Right.
So they're cutting it out, right? And then what they're doing is frame by frame, AI takes over and cuts it out for every single scene.
Yeah.
Once they have that, then they can actually use like a bump map, I think, and pop out every single aspect of it and create almost like a 3D model from it.
I get it. Yeah. The giraffe is definitely real, but it was a real giraffe with like lighting effects added onto it.
Yes, it was like UV lighting and maybe like touching up like some tones here and there.
Yeah.
But it was a real giraffe and all of its action was real. Yeah. So
glad you learned
it was
that.
a hybrid, definitely. But yeah, the epic shots of like Ellie crossing the planks of wood from one building to another. I think it's right before that scene where they talk about the view, or right after it.
Yeah.
And then they walk across the bridge, and you just see like that was shot on like in a studio with a blue screen behind it, and all they had was the building and the planks of wood, and everything else they just like made digitally.
You know what's set, and then obviously the background's like.
Well, no, but that's what I was gonna say is they did a really good job. I feel of blending the props and blending the CGI together.
Yeah. As they should.
Yeah,
and really didn't make the show. It's just making it real enough, but also like you're not on location, so you have to like compromise with that.
See, like in the episode with Riley, right?
Right.
When they're in the old mall and shit.
It was only a first. There's no second floor on that mall, from what I heard.
Oh yeah, like they totally recreated the inside of it. Yeah, that makes sense. Like, cause it seemed too short, almost, But whatever, like they sold it. But what I was gonna say, remember when they see that zombie with like the flannel shirt? I think that was inside of there.
Oh, the one that attacked.
Yeah, like there's a lot of what is it, infected that they actually built. They actually made the models, like they used physical props and makeup and everything like to put them in there, and then they would shoot it and then still go back and re-render everything with CGI and like put all the lighting effects and make everything look a little bit more, creepier, and like put the veins in and like do shit like that,
Yeah.
So I mean, like that was kind of. Because then there's real makeup and then there's CGI makeup. And that's what they blended really well, I feel like, in this series.
Yeah, definitely. Really right there.
Yeah.
Is there any scenes that stand out to you that we didn't really talk about? Or... This is the highlights.
Man, I want to say that scene when they had Ellie on the chopping block.
Yeah. That's straight up from the game.
And they were about to chop her up, and she straight up gets the freaking cleaver and like right into the actor that played Joel.
Yeah.
And like did the
Troy
CGI
Baker.
for Troy Baker right into like his tricep, or not his tricep, his like traps.
Some artillery vein.
And it just gushes. It's
like that was cool, actually.
He talked about that. He's like, I saw that and I was like, that is awesome.
I know, like, even if you're like, you being chopped up, it would be an honor. It's just like, dude, that's a good fact. It's just like me getting chopped up and the blood gushing. It's just like,
it was dope,
dude. It was a really good.
That was one of the coolest ones, I think. And then, I mean, just the scene of, man, when that hole opened up in the ground with that sniper and all those freaking zombies came
Oh,
out.
jeez.
That was like the most infected that you've seen in the whole series.
Yeah.
And for the rest of the series, I think that's where it ends.
That's where it. Well, you get once in a while, but
See, but
that was
that's what
like
I'm saying.
that's where all the money went.
And maybe that's why that's where they fucked up, because what they did was they introduced people and said, all right, this is kind of the bar for the rest of the series, like this many infected at once.
You're right. But I think it was just like a sense of balance because, um, well, this other scene that you also get to see infected is when they're looking over. They're in Boston. They're overlooking like the whole city, and then you see like a bunch of effect. But obviously, I think that was all CGI and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so you don't really get that much action. But I think they just like showed infection like at that first part. Um, that's one of my scenes that highlights is that first part where they go into like the museum. Obviously, in the game it was the museum,
Yeah.
and the show I think it still is museum. And you see like the first set of infected, and then you see them, and then this is the most like you see, and then it goes back to like, oh, they're diminishing down to numbers like, oh, it's only down to like one infected every episode and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, but I think they should have like
They should have definitely
toned it down a little bit, little by little, but also just
they
like,
toned it down too much.
Yeah.
Like they got us introduced to like a lot of cool looking fucking zombies and shit like that, and they just took it away. You know, it was
Yeah.
more about like the situations with people and stuff like that. And you would think, you know, if there's infected roaming everywhere, you'd come across some every episode. You know, even if it was just like a crazy like little snippet of a 15-second scene of him just killing
Yeah.
one, would have been, I think, cool.
oh, you know where the people would have expected one is that David scene.
Yeah.
Because in the game you're with him and there's a bunch of infected coming at you.
That is
Where
the
you're
one
trapped.
scene that I was gonna talk about that I wish they would have put in a series,
Yeah.
because in the game that is one of the hardest parts.
It's so fucking hard.
It's hard because one, you're Ellie. I think you only have a switchblade on you, and like
No. You do have like a rifle because you take away the rifle from David, but also you have like a whole
handgun.
arsenal. But you only have like a
limited
few
amount.
of time to actually like craft things up before like the next
Yeah.
round comes into it. So it's like a what do you call it? I want to say elimination round.
It's like a survival mode.
There you go.
So, but this is the thing about that.
No, there's a name for it, but yeah.
This is the thing about that scene is cinematically the way that scene in the video game is shot. It's like you're in an old mill and there's a bridge coming towards the area that you're at. So when you look out the window, you could see the top of the bridge and like the windows coming toward, like the openings coming towards you. And then you could also see people on the other side, like aiming at you. So there's also people sniping at you through the window.
No, they're not.
So yeah, no, you could see it. So like if you go through there, you could actually snipe them before they even get to you.
Oh, I thought you meant like people are sniping at you. Like, oh, that's a different game.
No. They do shoot at you. They do shoot at you while they're coming up. You have to take a couple of them out. But once you're in there,
What are you talking about? Like actual people, like not infected people?
both. It's like infected and
No, it's all infected people that come at you. But you have the option to like shoot at them ahead of
yeah.
time.
Yeah. So I mean, but that's what I'm talking about. Is like in that situation,
Yeah.
you could look down and like the way you could see, it's like the perspective of the game. It's like 3D. Like you're playing, like it's fully taking advantage of your
That
vantage
space
point.
in that
Yeah.
environment, yeah.
And
Definitely.
that's what I really liked, and I feel like if they would have would have been able to shoot that somehow and like see that people were coming at her and stuff like that,
Yeah,
it
that would have
just-
been a really great shot if
'cause-
they kept that in there.
because it showed. Look, to me in this series, Ellie, her most badass point was when she killed the guy, but to me in the game, when you fight as Ellie and you go through all those people, that was the most badass point when you were playing as her, right?
Yeah. Especially with the DLC, which I wanted to point that out because, again, the way that people play it is, you know, before you get into that chapter where you play Ellie alone, Yeah, before you play as Ellie, you go into the DLC, and that's exactly the way that they chronically put that in order in this season. Because when you play the DLC, you get to play as Ellie and stuff. So it's like going back and forth within the chronicle of being in a mall. Because Joel is because Ellie and Joel actually go into a mall. They don't go straight to like where we see in the show. They go straight to the mall, and that's also like a reminiscent of when Ellie and Riley, her best friend, right before she got bit, went into the mall, and that explains like the whole backstory of like her losing someone that she loved, and also like the origins of how she got bit and stuff. Which they don't go too crazy about it in the show, but in that episode, it really shows like the relationship of between the both of them, and also like the two sides that they were on. Because what we learned, and this isn't explained in the game as well. Ellie was actually part of like the Fedora training, which is pretty interesting, as
Yeah.
opposed to like Riley being like part of the Fireflies and stuff. So you get like two sides of the same coin, really.
Like the duality,
Yeah, exactly.
Romeo and Juliet.
Exactly. And, certain things go exactly as they do in the DLC. And we get to see that shit. And it's cool because, like, in the game, they don't have, like, the copyright for it. But they were playing, like, a Mortal Kombat type of game. But in the show, they're actually playing Mortal Kombat 2. So it was kind of cool to actually see, like, a show about a video game shows them playing a video game.
One of the most
that
epic
they
video
were.
games, I would
Exactly.
say.
And it was just like, oh, dude, like just going into the arcade, it's just like, ooh, like it brought nostalgia to a lot of people.
Well,
Really.
yeah, I mean, just that them, like, the mall lighting up like that did. And that's the whole sick point of that scene is, like, they've only read about this kind of stuff, and now they get to experience it in real life for once.
Yeah.
And the Halloween store is one of Ellie's favorite holidays. She remembers, and she talks about it in the actual game. So you get to see her and Riley try on different masks and just be goofballs inside of the Halloween store. And
That
it's
was a
like,
fun part of the game, and also a fun part of the show too.
but they got, I want to say the translation of that whole scene and the show was exact. Like,
Yeah,
the only thing that was different was the game, but everything else
Yeah.
was like exact. Even the names of the places in the stores, you know?
Well, the places in the store, they don't have rights to that, but
No,
you
some of them,
you
like
definitely
the
see like certain.
where they took photos and stuff, that was the actual photo booth from the game. You know,
Yeah,
there
I
was like
know.
little things like
Yeah,
that.
the only difference in that photo booth is that they send it to. They have the option to send it over to Facebook, and then they made a joke about like, what the hell's a Facebook
Yeah.
and stuff. But in the show, they don't really show that shit.
Yeah.
They just like printed it out and they got the picture
Yeah.
right there and then.
That's right.
Yeah, certain things wouldn't age well, so I think that was on point. Because in this story, one of the things we need to talk about is like in the story of Last of Us, in that setting, it takes place in like 2013 when the infection happens. But in the TV show, it happens in 2003. And it takes place like in 2023 at our time. But in the game, it takes place like further into the future.
Huh.
In 2033.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's why Joel ages so much in that time.
I mean, the time gap is still the same, but it's just like different. It's just a different time zone. Or not different time zone, but different
So I mean, obviously
year of time.
they're gonna do part 2, right?
Yeah.
So what are your expectations for that?
We're not gonna talk about it on the next one.
I mean, just really quick, just like kind of skim over it, just like.
I heard rumors that they already casted the girl who's gonna play God damn it, it's escaping my name.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's like the other anti-hero group.
Yeah, on the other side of it, they're the heroes, but to
Do you
them,
think they're
the
gonna
villains.
keep Joel? You know,
Yeah.
I think
Without
so.
him, yeah.
I think they're gonna keep Joel alive Like, we'll see
Maybe?
what happens.
Ah,
Look, no spoilers on this one. You got a lot of juice out of this one. You know what I'm saying? All right. Final thoughts? What do you think?
Yeah, let's go into final thoughts. Final thoughts. I think this game really pulled through with everything it's got. But also, we love to see a lot of things like we mentioned beforehand. But I feel like this is the right direction in having to do um, video game to movie or TV, in this case, adaptation, pretty well. But I feel like it was just like they had the advantage because there was already like a good story going along with it on the video game
Oh, yeah,
aspect
that's
of
a
it.
great advantage. Yeah.
And then they just kind of enhance it even more. But was something with like a video game with a good story, and then translate it over to like a movie or TV show. It's still pretty fucking
Mhm.
hard. But this one, I feel like this was easy. It's not easy, but still, I think it was more the easier side of it. Easier video games to adapt to.
Right.
And I felt like they just enhanced it more just because Craig Mason asked a bunch of questions, and then based on those questions, that's what made the show.
I think that
But yeah.
I think that the most important thing to take away from this, and it's like, yes, this is a great translation and everything like that, but if you notice in the beginning of the credits, it showed PlayStation Productions.
Yeah, so it is definitely a collaboration that they
So
want to do.
that only tells me that this is one of many PlayStation games to be converted into series.
I mean, it's not the first one.
Right, but this is the first one that's under PlayStation, isn't it?
No. The first one that they really capitalized on using Sony is Uncharted. The Uncharted movie that came out.
Right, so that was PlayStation Productions, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so
That's what included
so
it.
like that was their first game that they released.
Yeah, basically.
So they're kind of just going in order. So what's the next one that was in order for PlayStation, like the PlayStation games?
I mean, okay, so
I want to
heard,
say it was the one
no,
that
no. I already heard that they were gonna do a TV adaptation of Horizon
Yeah.
and also God of War. That's the two that I heard that. They
See,
were gonna
that's what
make
I'm
as
saying.
adaptation.
So I'm feeling like in the next decade or so, we might see adaptations for those video game series as well.
Yeah.
This is one of many. So
I
that's
think-
kind of my bottom line on this whole episode right here.
Now that you say that, I think this is the new trend in movies that's gonna come up. We already have Marvel.
I mean,
I'm not gonna talk about Marvel.
look
but
it. This is the thing: is Marvel, just like with this as well. This is what they have in common. All of their story has already been written. It's just enhancing it. So with Sony,
making a
all the games
different
have already
adaptation
and
to it,
stories have
yeah.
already been written, but now all they have to do is enhance it. You know?
Yeah. Well, they're gonna do it in a different way different than they expected. With this one, like the blueprints were there, but they just like added more onto it.
Yeah.
I just feel like they're gonna do a different version of what they already seen.
Yep. Final thoughts on the Ride On Tropical?
Fruity, tropical, guava, smooth,
Guava. Ready for
Um,
the summertime right here.
very bright. This is definitely a summertime.
This would
beer.
be a good one to actually mix with juice.
I don't know about juice.
I would like that,
It
like
already
a brass
tastes like
monkey
juice to
kind
me.
of, just a little bit, just give that little juiciness to it. But
Just a little bit.
definitely, doesn't taste as strong as it says it is. That's for sure.
Mhm.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Craftcast. Let's hit that button. How long was that episode? Jesus.
Welcome to Golden 30 Craft.
Perfect.
It's not bad.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's what we're aiming
That
for
was
now,
good.
people.
Yeah.
Follow us, Golden Craftcast, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube is where we go live sometimes. Check us out. We're even on Twitch sometimes, streaming some games.
The puns, man. The puns were the best thing about that fucking show.
Give them one.
Did you know that diarrhea is hereditary?
Why? What?
It runs in your genes.
That was terrible.